everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's discussion was recorded on the 25th of May in 2022, and we've actually had some emails and some questions regarding secret space program and different things that have come on board, and we decided that we would probably go ahead and do another show. This one really focusing more on kind of the trials and tribulations of healing process from, having maybe spent some time in the SSP. So we think it's a pretty important topic to have. And, we want to be as genuine and authentic and honest about it as we currently know and understand. It's really not a topic that we really do discuss all the time. And in all honesty, the reason is because we feel very important about empowering people as much as possible related to whatever subject matter, understanding the world around them, but to also engage and empower. And as we've been journeying through this subject matter, we haven't found the magic way of doing something. And so we've been, experiencing it, been exploring it, and just kind of want to give you our current level of understanding and knowledge regarding some of these trials and tribulations that people go through, whether they currently remember or having remembrances or not. And, what does that look like and how does it affect them, and what can currently, to the best of our abilities, help people in this process. And so that's what we've chosen to talk about today. So we hope you find it interesting. And we really appreciate you guys taking a moment to spend time with us, to listen to what we have to say. Again, you always have to discern whether or not you are even interested or ready to hear about any particular conversation. So we always say discern. And if this subject matter is just something that doesn't feel agreeable to you, just turn it off and don't feel the need to listen to something like this anymore. Oftentimes, you could be ready for something in a few years that you're not ready to have that information or have that discussion or even want to listen to it now. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There's not one thing in this world wrong with you. It's just where you're at. And so just understand that, we're not here to offend anyone. We're not here to provoke anyone. We really just want to have a conversation of certain experiences, and hopefully it'll give thought and pause to those out there that feel this may be relevant either to themselves or to someone they know, and it could be found to be helpful. So with that, again, thank you for watching and for watching our shows and supporting us. And we always, on a lifting show, we always like to start with an affirmation and blessing. And so we will do that today before the discussion. So I will deliver this, for us today. So blessings to everyone who has joined us, and you can hear our voices near and far now and in the future. We hope you find this discussion interesting. We hope you find it somewhat uplifting and healing if you are suffering some of these pains. We hope it gives you direction, but please understand, as always in the journey of our own lives, that there will always be personal responsibility to learn and grow through some very difficult situations. And we hope to encourage and give you strength always through this process, as well as many others out there who are always sending warm and loving blessings to you. So thank you. And that, again, a blessing to open the show. So it's an interesting thing. I will tell you today that we had an interesting morning and an interesting discussion with your mom over a few things. And although it's nice when information like that begins to come through, more information begins to come through, and you'd like to be able to stop whatever you're doing to be able to have a really nice discussion at that current present moment. But that really couldn't happen for us this morning. So we're actually playing a little bit of catch up on some interesting parts of this. And it kind of, again, we've had people, and Chris has experienced people, and regarding the Secret Space Program. I know for many of you, you're looking up Secret Space Program, so this is not something new to you as far as hearing. For those of you that maybe this is new, I'm just going to do kind of a quick 2-minute recap to make you understand what the subject matter is about. There are people out there who feel that they have had experiences that are greater than the current totality of their lifetime. People feel that maybe, again, they may only be 40 years old, but they have these visions, these dreams, these, lucid dreaming and experiences that are kind of bleeding through that they really can't place into another lifetime. It feels now, but it doesn't make sense, because if you added some of those experiences in there, you would potentially be older than you currently are, number one. And they may be related to something that seems off-world, okay, related to traveling amongst the stars, other experiences like that are a part of their lives. We refer to, again, the Secret Space Program as the fact that there is a belief system by many people, some who feel that memories are coming back, and by others that feel that, let's call it the deep black ops, or corporations who didn't want to share information, actually gained greater technology many years ago, some at the hands of extraterrestrial races, let's say, that actually they kept the information to themselves and actually promoted now going amongst the stars and growing infrastructure already out there. There is a belief system as well that they are already wheeling and dealing with other races from other planets, agreements, contracts, whatever you want to think, that all of these things have already been established. And some people call it the cabal, some people the hierarchy, some people the corporations are already, again, like I say, out there trading, doing all kinds of things. So again, in the realm of a secret space program and this infrastructure existing, how did that infrastructure come into being? So how was it grown? How was it created? Who built it? So this gets into a really complicated story, because what we suggest is that people were, let's say, in the air quotes, recruited, i.e. taken, and their skills potentially were even enhanced, whatever they were, in order to provide the slavery manpower to do these things. So it is suggestive of the fact that there is a capability of taking someone, having them go someplace else, be there, do there, and then kind of be put back. So we are talking in the sense time travel. We are talking, in the sense, again, of a greater infrastructure. This is, again, where stories people may have heard of during World War II, the Nazis, the breakaway civilizations, their attitude about being greater than most people here on Earth, and not having a viewpoint that all men are created equal. They do have a viewpoint that there is a master race, something better than, and the rest of you are meant to be the slaves, or you're just useless eaters. Unfortunately, it's our understanding that that mentality does exist among certain people and certain races. So this is kind of what we're talking about, except adding on the one layer, we're talking about maybe people having memories of being put into this infrastructure and worked, within it. And then the process of being brought back, and not everybody's brought back, I'll be honest, but those that are brought back and placed, sometimes there begins to become difficulties in their lives and problems and confusions and things. So we talk about that, as well as, again, our enhanced understanding from maybe even our previous talk about what we feel happens to people in the process of being brought back, which may then cause issues within their lives. So this kind of conversation has really been gaining momentum on the internet for, gosh, I don't know, maybe the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's gained quite a bit of momentum. And in that momentum, there may have been others that started or sparked some of the momentum that were not necessarily that were true secret space program. There are others that believe they are and they are not. And then you have this whole, as you saw in a little video that I posted earlier on this, when some of the download came through, this seems to be the flavor of the moment or the bad of the moment. You have these corporations and these factions, you have the Nazis and cabal, whatever you want to call them, that are polluting the airwaves with false, either false SSP type stuff, or trying to drown out, or within that, they're trying to drown out the true victims of the secret space program and the true victims of these abductions into the secret space program. Because see, when someone is taken, they're transferred out of their body into a clone of themselves. That clone goes on to do whatever you've done in the secret space program, from soldiering on other planets to engineering to sex slave to any of these false spiritual channeler. There are some of those too, folks, that are still circulating in the secret space program. That said, when you are brought back, you are literally put back in the body that they just took you from moments before. You're in that 20 and back, whereas you are running a parallel life to yourself. And you've heard me talk about this multiple times, whereas you're running parallel and you're getting that quantum entanglement back the entire time. This is why it takes 20 to heal usually. This is where the phrase 20 and back, 20 to heal comes from. Because during that 20-year period, it is stagnating you like you wouldn't believe on this end of the spectrum. You're literally like the future self, that's the past self, but you're coexisting. That's a form of physics that's not necessarily supposed to be happening in the same time continuum. That's a no-no. Just because you're in a separate body doesn't mean you're not getting that quantum entanglement there. And it's a massive one. It can stagnate you like you wouldn't believe. I've encountered many people, I shouldn't say many, several people that are still in programs, and I've encountered people that had their past in programs. I've seen people have 20 and back to back before. I've seen a lot of this stuff and different variations in between. The fad that is happening now, and I will reiterate what was said on the little video as well, is we're getting emails from people that believe that they were a secret space program because someone else told them they were, usually a psychic. And I am sorry to say, if you are listening to this and you're a psychic and you are listening to this, I am not trying to offend you in any way, shape, or form. You're participating in that narrative. Unless the person either asked you specifically about it, or you either you've had this discussion ahead of time, or you are qualified to identify another SSP veteran, please do not engage yourself in the topic. And the reason I'm saying this is because this whole set of airwaves has been so saturated, like I've said, on the orgone side of the spectrum, whereas the real thing was outlawed by the military because people were burying tower busters under the towers, and they were like, oh, we got to stop them now. We got to stop them now. Buried them. Military outlaws it. Then when it was re-legalized, they flooded the market with everything called orgone, and the real formulas have gotten kind of sidestepped. The same thing is going on with SSP. So if you are a channeler and a psychic, please, you have to think this through a little bit. You can't just go, well, a guide is telling me. This being may not be for your best interest. Please discern, and please, if this does not feel right, don't go for it. The reason I'm saying this is you could be part of this false narrative and not know it. You could be part of this false narrative, just like I've discussed in other recordings, even that other little one. The government created the New Age movement back in the 90s to separate people from themselves by saying, oh no, it's dark and light. And they did this just so people wouldn't do the proper shadow work, and they'd always look outside for a savior. Christianity did that beforehand. It's just a regurgitation of that. When the psychic scene came on the scene, when the psychics came on the scene, they started bringing in different beings that may not have been the highest good for themselves and not the highest good of whoever they're reading, because they were always told they had to get information from outside of themselves. This subject, it goes no differently. Unless you are an SSP veteran, please leave the topic alone, because you are participating in flooding the airwaves and also influencing others that may not even have been a part of it. They may have been an alien abductee, but it doesn't mean they were SSP. There's a whole ton more alien abductees than there are SSP veterans. Also, there's a lot of emotional turmoil involved coming back from the SSP. This brain is not the same brain that was there. You may have been a clone, but since you were taken as a child, that brain developed differently. And those memories associated with that, when you come back, have to be brought back in a piecemealed way. That is if you're meant to bring it back at all. And that's another misnomer. It may not be needed to bring it back. Only specific things to do a specific type of shadow work or healing at a specific moment, and it may fade to the background. The reason I'm saying this is with myself, I personally was meant to bring it back, and I brought back at least 60 to 65% of it back. As to my recollection, there could be a whole ton more that I don't know about. But it was always pertinent to the moment of an issue that arose that had to do with the subject matter specifically. And I'm not saying that that a lot of people aren't meant to bring this back. They were not meant to be removed from you to begin with. I encourage people to look into it. If you believe that you are SSP, look into yourself first before you consult someone else. But I will say this: there is so much flooding in the market right now that you may be inhibiting someone's true healing by saying that they were in at 20 and back when in fact they were not. And you are participating in the fad or the flavor of the moment. And it's like saying what flavor of Coke is out right now. That's how the SSP is being regarded, because these government buttheads are essentially trying to flood the market, so it lessens the importance of the true secret space program cases. And I cannot reiterate that enough. It's starting to irk me pretty bad, because I see this constantly, where I'm seeing, even on Facebook, even in some circles, a bunch of people believe that they were part of this. Oh, this is so cool, I was part of this. For one, it's not cool. Never was. You were never of anybody of great importance in the secret space program. You were a slave to someone who thought they were greater than God, and that they were greater than the totality of creation. That's how these shitheads regard themselves. They feel they have nothing above them, and they feel they have no rules to govern them. That's who you were beholden to there.
And they don't mind, and their egos are so big, and their confidence is so great that they don't mind, believe me, if you come back thinking that you were somebody special. They don't care. It doesn't affect them one way at all. So understand that sometimes, in order to control, in order to manipulate, they'll make you feel as special as you want to be. They didn't do it over there. I have to really stress that you probably weren't treated that well.
You were abused, and sexually abused, physically abused, all of the above.
But coming back and maybe implanting some memories that are askew in order to control you or make you feel like you were a special part of a special club or something like that. Again, it will control you. It will warp your mind a little bit to see something in a different way, the different way will then support their agenda. It will not necessarily support true healing for yourself or for others. If because you could actually potentially start to have conflicting memories too, and then what do I do with that?
Yeah, because you have the influence stuff that you're trying to go, wait a minute, this person said this psychic said this, then you have the real stuff coming in and they're ramming horns.
If it's coming in at all.
If it's coming in at all,
really
emotions come first. If you get that back, that you may not be getting it back at all. You may have been so suppressed that it may not come back
and
at all.
You know what, and a lot of people are like, I want to know. Really? Because again,
be careful what you wish for.
True. I will agree with that, because I'm like, I think, and we've said this plenty of times before, some of the things when I say they have control of you, they didn't just have control of you because they fed you. They had control of you, literally, of your mind, of your body. They had control.
And even at times your soul, because they did body transfers. They literally held it somewhere and jumped you from body to body in some cases.
So if you're really, for a lot of people, started to get these full memories back, you may be terribly upset of what you did and what you were capable of doing. Things that you would never think to do when being in control of yourself, that you actually did and participated in, and worst of all, had a moment or two of enjoyment for whatever you did, which will really mess you up.
You could have been a sociopath, psychopath there, but they enjoyed having you around for that reason. If you were somebody important to them, I don't want to get to know you, because that's the thing right there. You would still be with them if you were somebody of great importance, even right now. And you may still have a piece of you still there. I've seen cases in some of my sessions that way, where somebody still had something there and they were being used as a puppet. Here, I've seen that on several occasions. I've seen agents here running around, from inborns to handlers to ridicule agents, you name what I found. The basic narcissist. I've seen those types of people where they tried to break them there and turn them into an uncaring, unemotional robot, because that's the type of person they wanted. They wanted an obedient worker. They didn't want someone that was their equal or their superior. They don't want that. They don't believe they have superiors. So this, even though I told them to F off, the consequences were very, very brutal. And also, when some of these people came back, the real legitimate ones, 95 to 99% of them that I have run across have been severely unstable. They have been so unstable that they have forms of programming on from ridicule programming to handler programming to omega programming to murder programs to things of that nature. Now, programs can be uploaded to other people. They can abduct them and put them back, or they can have an alien hypnotize them on the street level and have them do something stupid like a robbery or something like that. That's other more basic stuff. This, with the programs, as I described in the little video, I won't go too much, or there wouldn't have been a point to that one. Just know there's ways to defeat this. You must step outside of this. You must find the calm, as I said in that video. You have to find that space and know that what comes out of your mouth matters, and what your actions do matters. Fight every bit of the urge to be part of their narrative. Fight every bit of that urge to give in to what you feel they would want you to do. That may sound like an arduous task, but just know, if it is not in a balanced way, chances are it is part of their narrative. And overall, if I want to blanket carte blanche this. And also, I have seen anywhere from people saying, oh, I was this captain or commander or admiral there, and they still considered me to be of great importance. Yeah, but are you actually telling the truth? Are you integrating the yield into your narrative? Are you integrating their information along with truth? If you're back here. But if you're back here, chances are you have some unstable programming from, again, omega programming to ridicule, to skeptical, to handler, to any of these things. You've got some kind of instability where maybe your emotions aren't quite right, or your empathy isn't quite right at times. You have some issue, because they did not want you to be balanced. They did also, memory-wise, in other areas. I can hardly do basic mathematics anymore. There, I probably could have done something for them. I was good at strategy with military strategy. I was good at thinking some things through there. So was she at times. But I've noticed with SSP veterans, they don't want you to couple all this together. They don't want you to be whole. They don't want you to be grounded and whole. Because if you're whole and you're not dividing yourself like they would in the New Age movement or any of the religions where they have you worship, if you're not whole, or if you're whole, they don't want you. They don't want you even standing on the earth. They were hoping you forgot this completely altogether. But also in the instances with people that aren't completely supposed to remember these things, there's value in this as well. You've just dumped that information into the benevolent Akashic grid, and eventually it's going to help bring these things out in the open. When I myself, I found out when I started remembering all these things, it started to cause ripples and waves on the molecular level of the energy, what I call millimeters and centimeters, whereas it changed things little by little. I may not ever get everything back in the correct order that I had them there before. Again, different brain, different adaptation rate, different decoding rate. Now you're bringing this back on a brain that didn't develop the same way. That may never come back 100%. But those that don't get even one thing back, if you're staying in your creative passion that you hear Viking and I talk about, if you are not one of those souls that was meant to be leading the charge, bringing out the information and changing the energies, you're still doing it in another way. You're still helping the public and yourself in a different way and altogether. You're bringing it out in a creative way. I saw somebody that could not remember one bit of the SSP information. I knew for a fact they were secret space program. They were bringing it out in a fictional way. They were bringing it out in also creating games. They were bringing it out in creating paintings. They didn't know where all this horrible imagery was coming from. And when I told them, they were skeptical. That was a program that was put in place. They didn't know how to bypass the program. The way they were sidestepping it was remaining in the creative center and accessing more of the soul. And when the soul began to come out more, it started to break down those other walls. So there is another way. See, soul, this vibrational energy is something those shitheads out there cannot comprehend, nor do they care to comprehend it. So that is a very important thing to remember. They don't see you as a threat, or at least those Nazis do not see you as a threat when you gain a certain spiritual understanding. It's when you combined all of these things together and become an extremely whole person, and they start looking your direction like the Eye of Sauron a little bit. That's where you get some of the targeting stuff from. But not. I want to reiterate: there were thousands of people taken into the secret space program. Not all of them. Most of them did not make it back. So the ones that remain, if there's thousands of them here that say they're secret space program, these are alien abductees that were convinced they were in there. And I'm not bashing you, and I'm not bashing your personal experiences. I would have to see it on an individual one-to-one basis. And you might be asking, well, Chris, you do sessions. How are you qualified to see this? It's because I'm SSP. I've been there. I know the points that I know happened out there in my own personal experiences, and the energy vibrations of people that have been off-world change slightly. The biomolecular signature that is within the cells changes when you enter space, away from the circadian rhythms of Earth. That's how I know. That changes. We can recognize each other kind of like the immortals on Highlander. We recognize when there's another legitimate one around. And just because that person is legit doesn't mean they're stable. Doesn't mean they're a hero. They could be a villain. For all we know, and they've been put back here to cause instability rather than stability. And that's also another point to remember. Again, I'm not bashing our own. I just know that at times it is very difficult to stay grounded, very difficult to remain stable, and keep stepping outside of the turbulent ocean and watching it all play out. This is how I got my memories back. Also repeating them to myself and writing them down and showing my brain that these were factual. I still only have about 60% of it back, folks, and that's probably where I'll plateau, maybe 70. I'm optimistic, but I'm a little more reserved at the same time. You got to remember also, there were a couple people I encountered very recently that one had their Omega programming triggered, and the other one is now in a sanitarium. Again, because the fact when they came back here, they could not cope. There was a third option that I ran into where it was somebody that I knew back in the SSP, a woman that was in Alaska where I was. I'm not going to go into the complete memory. It would take too damn long. Just know that when she was put back here, she was one of these people that not only would get possessed all the time, but she was mentally unstable and would cut herself all the time. This, granted, that's where the cutting thing comes from, is possessed, but this was also remembering the pain and embarrassment and the humiliation that took place back there. But on an emotional level, didn't know where the phantom PTSD was coming from, and she killed herself. She came back to me as a ghost, and she said she was highly unstable, and so were the majority that managed to make it back. There's very few lucky ones out there that came back and can actually sit and explain these things to you as we are doing now. This is, I cannot stress that enough.
I think it's really important. Again, I'm going to backtrack a little in the conversation because I didn't want to interrupt Chris when he was talking. So I have to reiterate, and we've tried to do this before, that there would really be no intelligence on a strategy of taking people in, putting them through an experience and bringing them back, where you would want the ones that were brought back to remember, have the skills, or, in any way be a threat, perceived or real, a threat to the agenda from which you just came. So I think that people have underestimated what is done. Forget what you think you were told. If you're having any memories of coming back and you're having, memories of a process, maybe a physical process you were put through, I wouldn't give too much credence on what you were told. If you're having memories of being told something,
don't go on what you were told, go on what you remember.
Just,
first.
I think it's important to remember, yes, you may have bits and pieces of a process of what it means to be in a body and a soul over there, and now you're being moved back, and a certain process of events are happening to make that occur. But a lot, I have to say truly all, not just a few, have had some sort of tinkering, again, to make you either not have the abilities that you had over there, be it in whatever area you were working, and or contributed to willingly or non-willingly. They're going to strip as much of that as possible, and they're going to try to make you as dumb as a rock. You know what I mean? If those skills try to manifest again, those inborn, however you were born into this world, they're going to do what they can to try to not let that occur.
And there's frequency triggers in there too. When you start to mentally get more free, there's triggers. Some people have implants, triggers, programs. Also, that could have been grown from a clone or fetus to have those in there as well. And once you get to a certain point, it will plateau you. They also have the ability to scan the timelines to look ahead to see if you have the potential to overpower them, and they will continuously activate this damn programming as you're going along, or inhibit you through distraction after distraction.
Right, and so you have to understand that strategy is definitely employed, because wouldn't you, if you were the creeps on the other side that were like, the universe is mine to do whatever, and I have the technological ability to do this, that, and the other, and you have the mindset that not all people are created equal, are you going to let somebody come back with the ability to potentially overcome it? No, you're going to employ the strategies you need to do to maintain that feel that you're the one on top. So, these types of strategies are employed. There is also, again, we've spoken about this before, the strategy that is also put into play to allow for the self-farming of those individuals who do, because they do know a percentage of people will not hold the block.
Mhm.
That is actually pretty well known.
Yeah.
Now, they try to put in triggers, they try to put in different things. They may actually even have an abduction experience that you remember or not remember to try and reestablish blocks that were put in there. They may do that, but in the knowledge of knowing that there is some things that will begin to emerge in certain people or whatever, they also have so many contingency plans. And one of them is, why do we have to put so much effort in dealing with this when we can put the triggers in people to start a self-farming amongst those people that are remembering? Again, this kind of self-farming is no different than what's going on in regular society. So, I mean, the concept of a self-farming mechanism being put into people is happening in society as a whole right now, unrelated to this. So the concept that you've been brought back and are completely free of something,
No.
And so
That's why you gotta watch that.
That's part of the reason you have to watch this. And again, as Chris was saying, and I'm just reiterating it as well, that if you were concerned about certain thought processes or certain abilities being able to manifest, you would want a counter, we refer to that energies as a torsion field, a certain torsion field arising to bring out certain information. You would want to develop an even larger torsion field, right, to overtake, to diminish the effects of that torsion field trying to rise up and bring out information. So this is not stupidity. This is great intelligence, right? That is going on, that are putting all of these different layers upon layers upon layers of things that are going on. And so if they can convince a bunch of people out there by flooding the conversation of secret space program and have, it show up now on late night comedy, those stupid people wearing the tinfoil hat who believe in a secret space program, they're influencing a lot of people to add to the torsion field that this is silly, which then will counteract a torsion field of trying to bring out the information. Mm-hmm. These are the strategies that are employed to not allow certain conversations to reach certain levels. This is not done happenstance at all. This is out of great thought. These types of strategies, like I said, well planned, like everything in society right now. It's actually well planned, okay? So, which could make you think, could there be a relationship? That would be a good thought. But to ponder, honestly, could there be some sort of relationship since they're dealing with the same strategies? Good thought, but look up and assume that who you are seeing may just be puppets of something you're not seeing as far as who's really in control. And we've said that before. The ones who are truly in control, you don't know what they look like. You certainly don't know their names. If you think you know your name, you don't know their name. I can guarantee you that. Mm-hmm. So, these types of things. So the one question that we've been asked, that we've been alluding to a little bit, but I'm going to now directly say what our belief system is and our understanding is, can you heal without the knowledge and the memories? The answer is yes. However, for some, it is helpful to have the memory, and then it could enhance even a healing even more. But again, the example that Chris gave of someone who knew nothing about it, but yet was drawing pictures and doing things or whatever, that actually was, even though it was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing, that is the soul trying to bring out something to self-heal itself.
Yeah, it's self-correcting, yeah.
So, and one of the things that I do believe about our presence in this experience is, again, many people, I think many of you out there, believe that we've led multiple lives. So when you journey into your next life, part of the work that you're doing is always about whatever has happened before now in some sort of auditing, correcting. And it doesn't mean you're remembering a darn thing from what happened in the past, but kind of on an energetic soul level, some of the work is being done. And
some of the karmic cycles are coming to an end by just you meeting certain people at certain times, going certain places at certain times.
Right. So the short answer is yes. But then you have some people who would benefit. But those people who would benefit in general are people that are wondering themselves because they're having things break through. So again, going back to the very beginning, where we're talking about people just throwing up a subject matter to somebody else who's not even pondering it. Is that actually for their path that they're supposed to be taking for their highest good?
Or are you trying to save that person because you think that they're always supposed to be remembering this? Like, say if you're a psychic, going, oh, I'll kickstart that person. No, that's being reckless. You know, maybe something you did is meant to happen, or are you meddling and interfering where you don't belong? That's what you have to decide.
We try to be so understanding of people and again of psychics. Everyone, again, I call it mythos. There's a mythos that if you have some of these skills that, you know, by the time you may be speaking to someone else, you're a master of them, that you can't be manipulated, you can't be controlled, and that, you know, the ones that you're speaking to are always benevolence, because there isn't anything but benevolence if you're able to go out there to speak to them. All of that is a mythos. But it is a darn good strategy to employ by somebody who wants you to believe that when they don't want you seeing their face and their agenda.
And also the day you think you just become immortal and invulnerable, chances are that's the program they've just activated within you. Yeah, can you rise out of this? Absolutely. So can you step outside of all the drama, all the politics, all the programming? Yes, you can. Doesn't mean you've mastered at it. No, but can you do it because you say so? Like you always hear her and I say, yes, you can, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to build that muscle if it's not like
right.
that.
And it doesn't mean that your life is going to become just a piece of cake either. So
targeting is a big factor in that, folks.
Right. And so I have to really stress again, as you were saying earlier, you know, do you really want to know if you're not having any memories? Do you really want to open that door? If you're not being affected and you just think it's about being in a cool club, you may have your little butt handed right back to you.
You're going to be traumatized by what you find.
If you really pursue it. Now, for those out there who feel there is a necessity to pursue it because of what is coming through to you, not what you've been told by somebody else, but what is coming through to you. This is kind of an area that I wish, and some of the reasons we don't talk about it is that we don't know the magic potion to fixing it. And we know strategies that can help. We've had to employ some of the strategies ourselves. We consider ourselves always a work in progress. We do not feel that we have graduated and have a secret formula, basically. I think it always goes back to some of the things that we try to tell people in the beginning, things like figure out who you are. Know who you are in your current belief systems to know what you are not. And that is probably for some people one of the hardest things to do, but it is one of the most necessary things that you need to do in order to recognize that a thought, you know, or something that keeps going on in your head, and I stress keeps going on in your head, may not actually be a reflection of who you are. Okay.
They're playing a tape.
And so this is really important because like we were saying before, being a human being is about experiencing all of the emotions. It's not trying to get rid of part of yourself. But in that spectrum, the goal is to figure out my frequency is right there or right there. And it really is who I am. Now, does that mean that you can't be a jerk or judgmental person? Because no one on this earth really is full. There is everything on this earth. And sometimes you come in for a life where you're going to be a very judgmental person, right? So there is great importance for you to recognize who you are and what are the characteristics that help define who you are. Now, again, if you start thinking you're something, but you're really not, you're going to hear and feel and see conflict within the self, conflict with not understanding why you just did something. Then you must reflect again, who am I? And so that's one of the big keys to help being able to dislodge, as you're alluding to, some of that programming that may be trying to bleed into to not let you be who you are.
And from that point, you integrate the actual memories once you dislodge all the falsities.
Right. And so I wish I could say this was a quick and easy journey down in one weekend. You get it kind of processed. However, for some, there will be a need to, I think it's a need for everyone to step back these days and figure out who you are so that you know how to ignore influencing. But if we're just talking about this arena, again, it's also one of those foundational, very important things. And again, if you are starting to have disturbing memories come back of a person you are seeing that you're like, I don't want to believe I'm that person. Well, then don't. If it's not really who you are in this current present moment.
But it does, but also it doesn't mean that you don't face it when it surfaces. That's the essence of shadow.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
So if you can see who you are and you understand enough about the subject matter to say that pretty much, I think one of the hard things for people to want to look into or accept is that pretty much anyone that was over there had some sort of despicable behavior at times. Okay. And so, but who
or
wants,
was abused at times, mostly, yeah.
Right. But most of the time, even in abuse, you were at time where sometimes the abuser.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's always, unfortunately, maybe a part that you played over there that you would not like to see about yourself. However, if you can do it within the perspective of understanding the true domination and control that was had over you, then again, the key isn't who were you back there. The key is who are you in this current present moment? Are you going to wear shame, blame, and guilt regarding something that happened over there and let it be through and let it dominate what your actual purpose is here? I hope you say no to that. And again, but there's going to be continual a strategy employed to downplay any sort of what we're talking about type of information regarding the secret space program. If it ever comes out, it'll probably mostly come out. And then people that were saying maybe things that were taught, oh, those poor people, they just really somehow got messed up on that other side, mm-hmm. Right? There's not going to be the acknowledgement. It's not fair. It's not right. Not everyone is going to be punished or held accountable.
Is the secret space program light is what I like to call it. You have the Space Force stuff that they're trying to promote with that other branch of the military, but at the same time, they're trying to basically underscore their atrocities. They're trying to sweep all that under the rug, saying, look how cool, look how awesome this is. You can explore the stars, all this other stuff. What they're trying to do is trying to wipe all their atrocities under the rug. And like what she said, the people that went through the real hell, they'll say, oh, look at those delusional people. We feel so sorry for them. And right. Those are the people that were right. Those are the people that experienced all of it.
Right. And so we already know, we already know this is the strategy that's being deployed and will be continued to be deployed. And so if our agenda, if our soul had to rely on something outside of ourselves to satisfy our need to be healed, you're in a losing battle, and we would be in a losing battle because you will not heal if there is an expectation for external sources or persons or something out there to satiate a healing that needs to happen from within yourself. If you put some sort of this must occur in order for me to be happy again, and this means something outside, external of yourself, related to another person or another thing or a particular story, and you are saying that has to occur in a certain way in order for me to heal, you're going to lose. Okay? Because you have to understand that self-healing actually comes from within, and that self-healing occurs when you can delineate, in this instance, knowledge is power, when you are experiencing certain things so that you can delineate what is me here, what is me there, what does control look like, what does this look like, so that you then can reject things that are trying to get you to do things now because you don't feel it's a representation of actually who you are. That type of self-control. And again, I wish I could say, that wouldn't be necessary, that all of this would just stop. It's not going to. And so it would be wrong of us. And this is a lot of reasons why we don't get involved in these discussions, because there's still we just want the world to know and then we'll feel better. You're not going to feel better, even if a lot of the world knows, because it's these other components that are still messing with you. And that comes from a self-healing inside and an understanding of it all. Sometimes you should reach out for assistance in this to help see things, a little bit clearer. Sometimes the regression therapy of trying to bring back memories, again, I would only say for those people that are that are having confusing bits and pieces pop up, and it won't be needed for everyone. But if you do need certain type of help, but I really kind of am like this, I think there has to be temperance on those who may feel they know a brand new piece of information, whether or not they should say something before they throw up on a person who now may adopt a story that isn't even their story. Mm-hmm. And that kind of stuff is happening
even if it's similar to something maybe the psychic or whomever is talking to them went through. May not be the same experience. They may even be recognizing another SSP veteran, but they could have been in a totally different area from sexual circle to soldiering to science. So it could have been anywhere.
So we normally are going to bring somebody in, and we are, but I just want to bring up one point that I want to say. In truth, right now, the strategies that we talked about that are being employed are the same strategies that are being employed on the totality of humanity right now by individuals. And I'm saying this is not related to secret space program. The domination, the control, the energetics, the energetic weaponry, pushing people past the limit where they break, where programming that may have been instilled had nothing to do with secret space program, but instilled from another area in another way. All of these things that are used and have been used on people coming from a secret space program, well, they must have perfected them and got to a really good point, because now it's been basically deployed around the world as a whole as a domination and control. So that is, to me, what is so disturbing right now personally, is to see the bleed, what I call the bleed through of things that more happened out in the open in a particular arena situation that a lot of people on earth did not live. And it is bleeding through now into society as a whole with the same strategies and tactics of a control type breaking down of people and situation and it's now trying to be basically deployed, let's say, amongst the population as a whole. And I don't say that lightly at all. It is very, very, very disturbing, trying to change people who have, certain, let's call it moral compasses and civility and things that most people want to have in society, and turn it up on its head so that you don't know what is up and down, so that you are more susceptible to domination and control and suggestions to, from others, where you may actually now do things that 5-10 years ago you would never think about doing. And I mean in relationship to how you think and treat other human beings. So to me, that's one of the most disturbing things. It's very difficult for me to just talk about the secret space program when I see the same strategies now being employed as a whole. So if you want me to sit and say that, oh, these secret space programmers went through some really hard times, but everyone else, you've had a great life and it's okay. I can't do that anymore, because it's bled through and is being now utilized in certain domination and control strategies more than it ever has been. I'm not saying it hasn't been used, but really more in your face as it has been. And again, the lack of recognition, that this is going on. I've always believed that society as a whole will rise above it. I believe that is the intention. I believe that is the will. It's just, again, in my belief system, a current knowledge deficit that's going on. And when you are shaking a foundational belief system you have, if you don't want that to crack and you can't, and you have to mend it together, you will deny everything that's going on so that you do not lose or crack that belief system anymore. Many people will leave this earth, this lifetime, refusing to change their thought processes on certain things. And some of them, when they get back, are going to be confused as to why it was so confusing to them. That we've actually seen over and over and over again, which actually goes to the conversation of how hard it is to be in these energies with such opposing forces, that you could be a very strong soul with a very strong focus, with a very strong intention to come in, and then it all falls apart because in the experience of the dynamics of these energies that we are all in, and some artificial energies that we are exposed to, it is hard to do this. This is not, kindergarten playground. This is really hard stuff. And so, again, we've reiterated, your job currently is not to try to awaken everybody around you. What your job is to maintain yourself, know who you are.
And then as a result, this is the after effect, folks, where as that energy then begins to mirror and wake up other people to those possibilities. That is if they're meant to. That I cannot stress enough. For years, I was on that evangelistic mode where I was trying to awaken people. Yeah, people can be a pain in the ass, folks. I completely understand that. Major pain in the ass, especially if they're trying to evangelize you and save your soul, or they're trying to conform you to their way of doing things. But it doesn't mean you do it back to them. And at the same time, yeah, do you have the right to defend your position? Absolutely so. But just know also, when you start arguing with people like that, it creates a pendulum swinging back and forth and for and against. So this it causes its own set of distractions. Yeah, some of these people can be a pain in the ass where they'll get in your face, they'll try to start a fight, they'll try to do all of these things because of that very deep set programming. And the only time you get to fight back, though, is if they are physically coming at you and you're defending yourself. But if you're arguing people online, offline, these people they're hypnotized. How are they going to understand what you're saying? Even in the frequency that you're in, they're going to see you as the bad guy with the frequency that you're in. You're in such a slightly higher frequency, more sovereign frequency than they are. They're going to see you like you're an alien or have two heads. I went to the store one time and saw someone yelling at people that had masks on. I'm looking at the guy, I was like, brother, they're not gonna hear you. They're brainwashed. They're not gonna hear you. No point. And yes, this is me saying that there is literally no point to doing it. Now, freeing the energies up, there's a point. Also, there may come a time where your words may be able to get through to them. I feel there is. But it doesn't mean that there is a mass awakening to any of this information. That is part of that new age gobbledygook that has been put out there by the government saying, oh, go out and awaken the masses. That's like Jehovah's Witnesses going out. Go out and evangelize people in a neighborhood on a Sunday morning at 6:30. So no, this is not, that equates to the same damn thing as far as I'm concerned. I even saw a meme online not too long ago on an awakening Facebook group. And I think that's exactly what it was called, the awakening group. But I saw this meme that had a bunch of people standing, like several people that were awake, standing over a crowd that was bowing to them and saying, these people will bow their heads in shame when they figure out what they did wrong to all the awakened people. I'm looking at it going, yeah, that's a nice pipe dream. Not going to happen. Because and why would you want another group of shamed people? That's going to empower the bad guys.
Well, not, but why do you think that is necessary for your healing?
Yeah, is it necessary for you to?
That's my whole thing. Instead of opening your arms and saying, I don't care, I don't know what you do. I'm so glad to see you.
Is it necessary for you to stand lord over them and say, now the peasants that hurt us and the people that hurt us in the past, now you're our peasants and we must rule over you? Is that necessary? No.
No, and if it is necessary,
then you're just as bad as they were before, because they were lording over you and dictating rules that made no sense. I guarantee you, because you're in more of a slightly awakened state, you're seeing certain things that don't make any sense. But
you are human. You are being hurt emotionally.
Your feelings are hurt and you're hurt physically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're in a human sense.
You're feeling all of this. But then again, is that what you need in your life to heal? Again, if you're looking for some sort of external repentance, external validation, external whatever to occur, you are vulnerable to never being healed because it needs to come from within. Now, in all honesty, are we saying that people shouldn't be held accountable for their actions? No, of course they should. People shouldn't be put in certain positions of power. People, may have even lost the right to be here. These things are actually real. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying, though, is if your healing depends on something of the above occurring, especially
like a mass awakening
or something like that,
yeah,
then
you're not doing it right.
You're vulnerable. You are actually in trouble because the odds of getting truly something external in that sense, okay, to, help heal you, again, on that level is makes you vulnerable to not getting what you are now set up that you need to heal. Now, I'm not saying, that, if you're, a simple incident where something went wrong and you feel you're owed an apology by somebody and you are like, I don't trust them because they don't owe me an apology and they never get an apology. Well, maybe you're not supposed to trust them. Right. So, or maybe they do something because they realize someone individually hurt you and they do make a point to come and say, I'm sorry. I do recognize. And of course, that type of civility should exist in this world. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking, again, the bigger picture of people wanting certain types of justice to occur on an awakening type level, and or a justice system where people who ordered these things should be held accountable to them or swing from the rafters.
That's a nice idea. Granted, there's part of me that does want to see some of these bad guys swinging from the rafters.
But if you're waiting for that to happen in order to say I'm healed, you got a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem there. Also, if you think also, you want to hear a twisted part of this as well. Whereas you want to see where this programming can lead, even in a narrative in your head. I was seeing this, there was a narrative playing out in my head where it was a dystopian world, kind of like The Walking Dead, just without the zombies, you know. And well, that's a matter of opinion, but where I was sitting in this like more advanced like city, and I was basically like governing over a territory. And I was literally went on daily announcements to new groups of people, basically shame, blaming, and guilting them for not waking up fast enough, and they caused a world disaster to take place by not seeing things more clearly. What the bad guys were trying to do was not only reaffirm the dystopian world by trying to create it through me, they were also trying to co-create that one group was shaming another. And that is how far some of this programming goes in a fictional construct. It was very similar to that of the what I just said about the meme. Also, in this scenario, there was a piece of equipment that would basically dictate, an AI that would dictate who would enter the city and who would not. If they had what it declared as substandard genetics or was an agent in society or like an inborn or something, it would literally kill them on the spot if they tried to enter the city. And I had those visions pop into my head. That's brand new to her, brand new to other people. But this is the kind type of crap that this stuff tries to implement, or the programming tries to, or the telepathic manipulation tries to work and bring out. And how does this concur with the secret space program? Everything, because this has to do with what they were trying to get me to become. And this is extremely important to understand. It's basically coming through the mirror darkly, if you want to twist it into like an hourglass inverted version of yourself that's unemotional and unfeeling, but at the same time declaring a whole class of people lesser than someone else, or another class of people. And I believe that's exactly how the cabal came into being. That's how the Orions turned a small group of people become eventually the 13 families. That's exactly how that story began, but it was being twisted into a modern dystopian take. And that's exactly how that occurred. So this is, I believe this is a point where we can have a galactic come through. It's more likely going to be Isaac because there's nobody else here. So I'm sorry if I keep wiping my eyes, folks. It is very sticky in here for some reason. My eyes won't stop sticking together here. Isaac, he made the comment while we were talking that he had something to say that neither one of us nor people would care for. So it's like, all right, go for it. I'm all for that. The creepier, the better. Let's go. All right, still, let's see.
I'm not for creepy, but if it needs to be heard.
But if it's creepy, as in it tends to deter some of what we were just talking about in the negative sense, or in the repetitious sense, or in the false sense, then yeah, creepy is fine. So if it's defined like that. So okay. Isaac. Okay. Okay. I got to make sure I'm not hearing the AI humming next to us as well. We have a router that's not 5 feet from me, and so I'm stepping on a shungite pad on the floor of one of my feet. So if you have a router in your room, have a pad with some shungite on it. We may try to make these in the future, but so Isaac, ooh, what's the rush? You're right here. Okay. Little known secret by these two. I've known them both in their secret space program times as a physical being. He himself remembered parts of it that I didn't really exactly wish him to, and this may not seem cohesive, but it may seem anti-sovereign. But his soul self Tarankal had some different ideas on what sovereignty meant from his human avatar. So the response that I was giving him in his book writing about this, a particular instance on a Martian German vessel, where I was fairly despondent that he remembered this. I was more despondent at Tarankal for wanting to bulldoze the memories into the open. This is a common tactic on his part, but I'm not throwing him under the bus. It works in some situations. And also, the more you bring out these memories in a linear fashion, the AI knows in that way. And it was a perfect from A to B to C to D recollection, which is a wonderful thing under normal circumstances. And that AI recognition of this is getting less and less, far less. And also telepathic intrusions in that area are getting less and less. But just know, even with your phone around, you have a scanning device that can pick up on those tags being tripped in the psyche, and on if you have any implants, this detects it. And if you are even remembering in a particular way, it will know. This is why when people are ready to report something, the men in black know that that they're ready to do it, especially about UFOs. This has even been true in the past. Even pre-digital technology, because they had that then. What I am getting at is the healing that has to take place cannot always implement the bulldozer method. This can cause an instability, but the energies that Tarankal were trying to bring through could move mountains. So there was a benefit to this, you see. This is why he was able to hit the 60 to 65 percentile, which is slightly inaccurate on his assertion. This is how he was able to hit this mark. And when this information is put out, yes, it will improve things. This is why he was here to do that portion of that particular shadow work to present it to the public. Not every one of them is here to do that, folks. There are a select few that are. And you may think, oh, these are champions of the cabal or champions of the media. That's not necessarily true. A majority of them have never even seen a camera face to face. There are some out in the open, yes, that have become compromised. And I've said this myself before. But just know that not any of them have it 100% together. Not all the marbles have been put back. The neck bolts have not been tightened to their capacity. This is how this is. And I hate to say this, this is the creepy thing that was going to be said. There are more agents than there are allies. This is what I wanted to bring out, but you can question if you like.
Well, I do find that interesting because, when we, again, this is going to sound for a second disjointed, what I'm about to say, but it'll come around as a full thought. So, when you say that, it reminds me of when Chris and I were doing some exploring up and down the East Coast, and we kept running into the name that we were pondering. So correct me if we were being messed with. We kept coming up with the name gardener everywhere as, again, pruning a garden, having a garden grow, cutting a tree to have it grow in a certain fashion or whatever. And, we were kind of like, is this a coincidence? And at the time we were kind of, led to believe that, again, the garden was being grown and people, this would be an example of, instead of a person being programmed to do something, that it was our understanding that these truly were particular people who wanted to go into a certain time frame to ensure that the world, the garden, the energies, however you want to say it, would grow in a certain fashion. And they were willing to go back there, do the work, and die for it. These were not controlled people. These were actually people who were a part of the idealism, who were willing to play that role. So when you say what you just said, that's what popped into my mind. Are you meaning the same thing?
Mm-hmm. The Gardner family, you would call them one of the 13 cabal families, but they were creating the 13 thing as more of a boogie, boogie, boogie type of number to invert the number 13, when in fact, the frequency of the number 13 is quite potent. So they figured they would invert it. There are more than 13 offshoots, and more than 13 of them by far. The Gardner family is one of the original and one of the oldest servant families that exist. They garden the timelines you see. They go back in time, and they try to stimulate certain events from either not happening or happening. Jamestown, where you were before, they were quite present there. And also at the first flight at Kitty Hawk, they were present there. They were always the photographers. But they gardened up the original 13 colonies to manicure the fact that the United States even exists at all. They made sure the US came into being, which had both a yin and a yang purpose. This does not mean it's the greatest nation on earth. This does not mean that it is above everyone else. That is ego. Yes, should you treat your country first, and then you're more qualified, just like with soul and body. Yes, but the reason it was created was become the new imperial Kabbalist state, which is what it is becoming more evident that it is. The Gardner family went back in time and prevented any sort of free thought to emerge. You even saw elements of the Montauk Project in Jamestown, which were quite accurate when you were there. And also, with the level of time travel technology they have, they are still sending gardeners back to manicure. Not as much as they did before. It was during the initial formation and prehistory of the United States and elements of England and Europe, but mostly the United States. They are who a lot of those time travel stories are based around. So that information is indeed accurate.
So it's an interesting thing, because this is what you're alluding to is happening now, especially amongst, again, getting into the ranks, coming back to, I'm going to use the word pretend because I don't know what other word to use, to pretend to be in the ranks of those in remembrance of problems in order to, again, manicure a certain thought process or alert to certain problems or to, so it's interesting because you
Weeds in a garden.
So you pretty much said, if I heard you correctly, and I think I did, that you think from your perspective, it appears that the amount of people who are in positions like that, there's a greater number of people that are willing participants in the gardening process of people remembering secret space program than there are actually people remembering that they're being in the space program. Is that what you just said?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so there are elements of people that they are remembering when they were trained to become the gardener. They are remembering when they were trained to become the handler or the agent, but their ego will not allow them to understand that they were the villain. This goes back to the phrase from one of your Batman movies. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. This is especially true now. They were referring to ancient Rome, with Caesar taking the first emperorship, depending on who you speak to, but he was more the conqueror. This is essentially psychologically and also agent-wise what is going on, especially with the Gardner family. They believe it. They were not always programmed. They do believe in the cause. And that program is still instilled into this day. They didn't need too much pruning themselves, you see. The gardening also of the timelines was also prevalent in your show Loki, where they would prune the multiverse. This is the mentality of who you are up against. That is exactly who they were referring to in that show with that single scientist at the end. He was a gardener, pruning the branches of time, only allowing a certain set of events to play out so that no other choice was possible, and a bondaged timeline within a non-existent multiverse. That is exactly how they view history.
So in fact, just talking about what we're talking about right now, again, and we use the example, or I brought that up, of the Gardner family in our exploits learning about some things, many years ago now, that we were working on that. And then
introducing diseases and introducing distress and discord in societies as well.
Absolutely. And the fact that, again, we're talking about the implementation of the same strategies being used over and over again. If it's a successful strategy, why get rid of it? So a successful strategy there, let's implement it here in the secret space program. It does amaze me. I will say, it always amazes me how large that domination and control, or that groups, the numbers of people involved in that agenda, it's very large. And so that you're right, that sense. But what I really want to get at though is, okay, who cares? And I'm going to say that because there is a part of the strategy that if you know it exists, it can make you feel helpless. And which is part of it why they would be okay with the information getting out, because then people say, well, I don't know who's a who. And then you're going to start chasing your tail trying to figure out who's one of them and who's not one of them. And you're going to actually then move away from the work, which is really inner work. And so even knowing that this occurs becomes a strategy of distraction to keep you from doing inner work. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm. Some of it can be, if you're always on the pursuit of who's who and what's what and they is they. I will mention that, which is aggravating to myself as well. But in this, that is a denigration of the human language, the human condition, and the human self-identity. In that way, they want everyone confused, ungrounded, not themselves. They want people to feel despondent in the wrong forms, in the wrong bodies, but they also want people to pursue things to a dead-end road. It doesn't mean the pursuit of knowledge is wrong. Pursue all knowledge, but just know when it is leading constantly to a dead end. And this is where some of this leads. There's so much information out there. Do you know what is disinformation and what isn't? Do you know who agents are or not? Would you be paranoid at every agent around every corner? Some of you might, yes. Are there some that could be your next door neighbors? Yes, but there's also just as many aliens and many hybridized people that are on both sides of the spectrum that are just as much your neighbors. Yes, the gang stalkers are irritating. They're irritating as holy hell. Are some of the unruly aliens sometimes in neighborhoods irritating as holy hell? Yes. But do you have to be paranoid about your neighbors? No. Should you live around people you figure are toxic, see are toxic? No. Find your space in the world and be that. Find who you are in the world, become that. This does not mean that you become paranoid about what's around every corner, like a supposed tinfoil hat person, but it doesn't mean that the aluminum does not have a scientific basis in truth. Doesn't mean that you become paranoid and hide in your basement forever. But if you want to become a hermit and live amongst nature, that is a different way of doing things. They created, this is also another creepy moment, some that people might find offended, not that the they, them thing was not, but quit being tit babies, folks. But in this, the ones that became paranoid about all of this, they became broken psychologically by the telepathic intrusions and by the AI, which is sad. But at the same time, they were programmed to become that, so they looked like the blithering idiots, so nobody would ever go for that information.
It's very interesting, and I know that you personally would attack it, because the first thing that came out of Isaac's mouth actually probably terrorized some of the people who were listening when he was bringing up that, oh, and did you know on the phone, by the way, that, they can trigger you just because your phone's on, because the phone has this technology that can do this, that, and the other. And then I don't know what percentage, a subset of people listening to us then wanted to turn off their phone.
wanted to now to find their way, wanted to find the workaround. The truth of the matter is there's so much technology out there. What you need to do is just not care about it anymore.
Yes, and you are listened quite a bit by your government. No amount, and I mean no amount, of safety in computers is 100%. People go, oh, this will block this. This is safer than this. It may be safer, but is it 100% away from that AI intrusion and people listening? No. Is there a freaking van on every corner listening to your communications? No, they don't need to do that. They don't need the manpower. Some gang stalkers, yes, that's more of an intimidation factor. But do they need listening vans all over? No, they have satellites. They don't need men doing that.
And they have technology above our current satellites.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know, if we're out there as a secret space program and, you know, there are certain people bringing through information about the amazing technology, enough said. It's being used for the farm, let's say, as well, in one way or another, which actually gets to, again, just to deviate, and Chris is hearing me say this for the first time, is that I really want to do a show, hopefully we can do one soon, on the beneficial effects of shunning. Because it's a not giving, and shunning is learning how to not give energy towards something. So in a sense, I may shun a person. I may literally, Lord, I don't want to hear anything said. I don't want to be here and lend energies to it or whatever. And literally they start speaking and you get up and you walk out. I mean, there are beneficial effects to shunning all kinds of information, meaning not lending your energies to it. So I actually want to do a show on the beneficial effects of shunning.
And to put context to this, it doesn't mean that you shun. And at the same time, those people that walk out don't even know why they're walking out. Just like the ones you were referring to at the different comedic shows you were watching, the ones that know these comedians and their behavior, yet they were there and they were butthurt. Good riddance, they can walk out. In this particular way, that would be a good subject to do, but in its proper context, though, the shunning of society onto another aspect of society is never acceptable. Even though, again, as he said, there are pains in the ass out there, they were designed to come up to you in that particular moment. They do not have the capacity to mind their own business. Just remember that. You yelling at them to do so will only make their programming stronger. If by then someone approaches you and starts going yak, yak, yak at you, have the wherewithal to walk away for yourself.
Right. Don't give energies to certain things, which is really what I use the word shunning, because truly, can you imagine a true mass shunning or shutting off of energies to certain subject matters that are being played over and over again on TV?
Yes.
What the effect that would actually have would be immense.
Do not shut off flows of information to yourself. Just learn to filter out and discern what is bullshit and what is not. Now, with that said, shutting off, not going into the deepest, darkest parts of yourself is actually a travesty. You must look at those parts of yourself in order to rectify them. You must. Just because it is scary does not mean that it is not worth looking. Also, this means also adaptation rates to different energies. Granted, this will be unpopular to himself here. Him always showering himself in physical protection is no different than some of these tit babies wearing masks at times. This, granted,
Chris just appreciated that, Isaac, very much.
but because he has the tendency to whine about this quite often. But adaptation rate, remember, as far as viruses go, you can become immune. As far as energies go, you can become just as immune, because sometimes they roll as one of the same. Sometimes there's a roll of the dice. Protection is needed, yes, at times, but not every moment. Just like you don't need a hazmat suit to go to the grocery store. This is exactly this. This is something that also needed to be said as far as also memory integration. There is a muscle memory involved in this as well. When you begin the process, also when you begin the process of downloads, it, especially in the bulldozer method that Tarank Kahl so lovingly started, it has an effect where it ends up to where you overprotect yourself. But yes, it is a wonderful thing making these things to put around yourself. And also they do help bring out some of the SSP information because of some of the ones that have the stronger magnetic field. Magnetic fields and high intensity magnetic fields and electromagnetism tend to stimulate the part of the brain that was suppressed in the secret space program. That is actually a physics fact because there were forms of electromagnetism that helped suppress. So it's polar opposite is what is needed to accentuate and bring that back out. I'm not recommending that people try this, nor am I trying to make people paranoid about their phones. I was just trying to get people to put them down at times. Mm-hmm. So in this instance, like say, when you had to bring your Wi-Fi back into the house, mm-hmm. and the energy is pretty bad, I will admit it sucks. But on the same token, any form of energetic change in a gradual way can be adapted to. That's what the human genome is supposed to be good at. Granted, it doesn't mean that you walk naked into a nuclear reactor. It does, however, mean you can adapt to those elements incrementally, as he likes to say, but with millimeters and centimeters. This is how you do it. Not also denigrating the product. Product is very, very needed at this particular mm-hmm. moment in time in history. This is why its reemergence came out. The original formulas and stuff came about as a reemergence amongst all of the noise that is out there. Also, this does not mean that that people denigrate the products that are the noise. There are others out there that know how to do this in its proper fashion, but not in the same proportions. There are some that do it completely wrong. It is going to remain a mystery as to who is doing it wrong and who is doing it right, because at this point, it does not matter because the correct thing is out there. Just like with the memories, it is not your business to evangelize just because you have brought it back out and you want the world to have brought it back out. Good, you are telling the people you are meant to, but it doesn't mean that you are a door-to-door brush salesman in that particular way. Scrub and clean somebody's brain that you think is brainwashed in that respect. If you're trying to scrub somebody's brain, you're washing it. Just remember that.
So I do want you to...
And you have become the agent, proverbial agent in that way. So, yes.
Yeah. So, we've actually expanded this conversation a little bit. I do want to get back to kind of the topic because although Chris and I do not have the magic formula for this, we feel we have some processes that we've talked about, and some of it is a lot of self-work. Know yourself so you know what isn't you. And then if you do need help with some of this integration, really reach out. There are people out there that can assist you with this. Chris can assist with some parts of it. Other parts, other people are way better suited. We're not ashamed to say that we are, the know-all be-all. We're actually not. But, there are other people that are out there that are very, legitimate in trying to help people recall certain things, and to not give up, I guess, would be another one. But don't think there isn't going to be self-work involved.
Yeah, so there are things that you are meant to run across that trigger certain things that you are meant to correct and meant to bring resolve to or fix, however you wish to view it and whatever words you wish to view it in. Just know, granted, they're power in words, but at the same time, those power in words, you could trigger someone that could lead them down a really bad rabbit hole. Say if a person has omega programming, that's more of a murderous type of programming that was put out there, that they may even commit suicide or harm someone horribly, like that has happened in recent histories. This is more MK Ultra branding, as it were, that has been put in there. This does not mean you get to trigger this in others, but if that is meant to happen so that they can bring resolve to it, so be it. But in some cases, they will go askew and their programming will cause them to go psychotic. Again, as he said, there was a majority of them that were either agents or they're not stable. That is a fact, folks, right there. In this, the healing that needs to be brought about, if you believe that you were in this, and you know, not necessarily just believe, you know you're in this, and you understand that you were in this, it is necessary to heal by transforming the self, by integrating what you need to integrate and balance what you need to balance. Bring in the memories that count for the moment, for the specific emotion or trauma that is surfacing. Don't try to go for all at once, because that's not how it works. That's not how the integration works. Just like with past lives, of only picking and choosing the things that are meant for the moment in time. But it doesn't mean that you don't look at it. It doesn't mean that this isn't surfacing for a reason. If it's somebody that it hasn't surfaced in, why bother? They're on their path. But if it's something that is surfaced and that person needs healing, it is for that particular thing. They're wondering where the PTSD is coming from. But also, you don't want to send them in the other direction where they've brought out all, but now they're more unstable than when they started. The object is, yes, you look into these dark corners, but don't let them look into you.
Well, thanks, Isaac. And I'm going to just say we're going to leave it at this point as Chris comes out of this. And we hope we've given you guys, quite a lot to think about. And again, I wish I could say this was just easy, but it's not easy. And we wish everyone well. So an ending, a blessing affirmation, basically, I would also like to give, unless you want to give it, Isaac, but I mean, I'll be happy to.
You can go ahead.
Okay. So basically, again, blessings to everyone is out there. Understand that in this instance, it is the healing and the self-work that you do that brings about the justice you truly seek in this situation of the Secret Space program. Moving forward, having a healthy life, having a life full of passion of what you do is the win. Believe me, it is truly the win. So much love is being sent your way from us and from many, many beings out there that are cheering for you every single day, hoping that you will be able to accept true benevolence into your heart and be able to push away the malevolence that is trying to hold you from being your true, authentic self. So thank you again, everyone. We're going to be ending this show right now. We wish you all the best. We don't talk about this a lot. We don't intending on talking about it a lot, but we want to bring forth information for you to think about and any suggestions and things that we have learned to help you move forward in this situation. So we hope this conversation was beneficial to a lot of you out there, and we always wish everyone their highest good. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And to put one measure of context to what he said, there was an incident where I was getting a memory back, and he was with him on a Martian German vessel. And the mere fact, I won't bring up the memory at this point in time. I've already recorded it in other places and written it down in other places. It'll be part of a book that I put out there. But just know that he was trying to keep me safe on board of a Martian German vessel by saying I had to remain asleep there because I was laying on a bed, meaning that I wasn't supposed to contest them or that danger might befall me there. But when I started remembering some of that, he got angry, but he was getting angry at Torrent Call, I found at the time, by pushing all of this to the surface, like Atlas holding up the world sort of thing. And that's what he was really meaning. His reaction after getting the memory back was quite baffling to me. Now I understand the context behind it. He was mad more about the soul, but for choosing the bulldozer method. And the bulldozer method is never recommended for novices. It's probably not even recommended for me. It's just that what the soul chose when I came in to get rid of a lot of some of these obstructions in that wrecking ball sort of fashion. So I will leave it there, folks. So I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. This is a YouTube episode, and you've seen the little blurb I put up beforehand. That's a pattern that I'm thinking we're going to start to follow in the not too distant future, because of the fact that that seems to help not only during times of downloads that I'm getting attacked because they don't want the bad guys don't want the information out. But that then became the precursor to this. So that I will leave it there. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now. A bit of a synchronicity popped up here, or asynchronicity, I shouldn't say a bit of one. Vincent made note of some of the Gardner history on Montauk Island about the natives. After I posted the Matrix of Dreams video. And as I said, the Gardners were ones that went back through time and gardened or manicured the timeline to make sure certain things happen. Well, after he mentioned Lion Gardner, was a member of the family, Lester Gardner popped up on Antiques Roadshow a little while ago, having been around Orville and Wilbur Wright, and around the time they did their test flight. I believe that they were prolonging something or the discovery of the method of flight for quite some time. I feel they were there sometime trying to either give people some disinformation on flight machines, where you got all those creepy, stupid flight machines. But when Orville and Wilbur Wright got it right, they prolonged them or held them back a little bit, held evidence back or held something back to manicure the timeline a little more, leading up to the history we know about Orville and Wilbur Wright. This is also on the East Coast. They're in Kitty Hawk. That's Kildare Hills, Kitty Hawk, and Nag's Head, right there on the East Coast. I told you the Gardners are all up the East Coast. So you'll find their graves everywhere up the East Coast, from Kitty Hawk practically all the way up to Salem, Massachusetts. I don't doubt Maine either, but we didn't go that high or that far north. And I haven't been to Florida either, and we didn't get to explore South Carolina enough. So we're some of the southern states like Alabama, Louisiana, and Georgia we went to, but we didn't visit really any graveyards. So I'll find any more on this. I'll let people know. That was an interesting synchronicity that just happened to come up that way. And I compared it to Star Trek Enterprise, where they even mentioned Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers a couple times in the show. They also mentioned that the Vulcans hold Archer's father back, the captain of the Enterprise, the father of the captain of the Enterprise in this. They hold him back thinking that humanity was not ready for space travel or warp travel. So they held crucial evidence about the warp drive from his father. And his father didn't live to see the first really warp-capable starship in that flight. So there's a co-synchronicity here with the characters as well. And it's the Vulcans are kind of bullies in Star Trek Enterprise. So they think humanity, you've only been 100 years out of World War III. You're not ready for space travel, or you're going to screw up out there and screw some things up that we have out there. And there's an agenda in there with the Vulcans too. They don't want emotional humans being out in the galaxy yet. Just like there are some aliens out there that do not want us out there because of unexpected, any events that would happen as a result of us being out there. Just other episodes of Enterprise would be like when one of the characters named Trip sees a child choking, or what he thought's choking, thinks the mother's choking this child by taking this air respirator away. The mother was really weaning the child off of that and onto the air everybody else breathes. And the child just didn't want it. He thought she was abusing him. So there will be, I'm thinking, some misinterpretations like that, but it's not enough to hold people back like that. And certainly not enough to garner the timeline like how Time Corps likes to do, likes to garner the timeline and manicure the folding of timelines into a single controllable stream, like in the show Loki, with the scientists that manicured all the timelines into one sacred timeline. So I figured I'd make that comparison. It is 7:19 p.m., Monday, January 17th, 2022. Thank you. All right. Some people in the Q&A and some people asking questions and such have asked me loosely about what I know about the Gardner family. For one, they're one of the 13 Cabal families. They became a servant family, whereas they were in charge of gardening the timeline, meaning they went back through time in the Montauk projects, went to various historical events and either screwed them up or created some. Just like wherever you see their graves, you know that that particular family was in charge of actually changing something historically. Spotted them in Boston, spotted them in Salem, and they go all the way up and down the coast, all the way to from Jamestown all the way up to Salem, Massachusetts. And they garden the timeline. Some historical synchronicities popped up very recently that I had. I explained some of this in a video we did on Patreon called The Matrix of Dreams, where it was a comparison of Matrix 4 and the Matrix movies to things that were actually going on. And also, I did a little bit of a synchronicity popped up to comment a friend of ours historical information on the Gardner family. So I have since posted this to our Patreon, so I won't go into that part. But what I will say is something that I did not say on the Patreon. There was a Montauk agent by the name of, I believe, Thomas West, if I'm getting the name right, that was in Jamestown that prevented John Smith from becoming the president of the United States. That's what the Montauk agents did. I believe he was in association with the Gardner family or was a member of them, and he just changed his name for an agent purpose. But the Gardner family tended to be out in the open. So wherever you see their grave, Gardner, they are manipulators of the timeline. And they've changed historical events. So even if you see a grave somewhere in an old graveyard, just know that there was something that was going to be significant there that was either fizzled out or that place is close to something that they had their mitts in very heavily, had their hand in the till very, very heavily, and were attempting to be handlers, essentially, by gardening the timeline and essentially making it more conducive to Cabal interests. So that's the question and answer. I have a couple things on Patreon about them that I posted. You'll have to watch the long video, the 5-hour video, The Matrix of Dreams. I did put a couple little videos like this one in there, and there's another one by the time you see this one on another Q&A. The other one will have been on the Patreon or within our subscription base. So it is 7 a.m. Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to mention more about the Gardner family before I get to something that's currently going on. They not only went back through time and also became a famous photography family. If you look in some museums around Gettysburg and around that area, we found some pictures that were documented by the Gardner family. Gettysburg, what happened there? That was the biggest battle of the Civil War. They were more than likely playing both sides against the middle, just like the Rothschilds did for the Napoleonic Wars, and got them all to fight in this big, glorious battle that it's a haunted ground that is constantly being fed off of. Even though we did clear a lot of the original ghosts from there when I was personally there, and foolishly channeled there in Boston and in Salem, where there were all Gardner family graves. I will never do that again, folks. But this is something that people don't always know. They went ahead in time, too, from the time of the Montauk Project, too. They went ahead to manicure the timeline forward. This is also why in 2016, when you saw President Trump descending the escalator and had the people
all with the billboards, and even one guy dropped one. They had the same thing on The Simpsons back in 2006 in an episode called Bart to the Future. And you've heard me mention this before on Q&A. But what you do not know is that was this family documenting ahead came back and put it as basically canon in the timeline so that it would also be more solid. You bring something back, it creates it more solid here. And it's something that must take place. And they mentioned that in Doctor Who as well, that sometimes is like the Montauk Project, where even the doctor went, I don't care, I'm doing this anyway. Well, he's like, tough. Oh, you can't alter the timeline, tough. I did it, sort of thing. That was one episode where he kind of went bad. But this was exactly what was going on. They feel they have the right to manicure time. And they went forward. And that's a key thing that you saw, that it may seem minor, but it is actually a major detail. Showing exactly what they do. They went ahead, the Men in Black and all that went ahead too. And this is not only how they know when people have done something UFO-wise or written something. That's more AI. That's that. But the agents of Montauk specifically went ahead to check the timelines and know how to try to steer it. They go back, report, okay, this happened, we screwed up here, we have to do this here. And this is something that it's very little known, even though it's been in people's faces for a while. What is going on right now is I have a man with an old-timey camera in my face. From roughly, I would have to say, around the time cameras were actually invented. It looks like it had some modern technology put in it so that he could document this well. And this family documented a lot of the time travel instances where people said they went back. Some of it's disinformation. Some of it is actual footage from back there. They mixed both of it together like the Cabal usually does. But they would document certain historical figures. There was even a story of a young boy that went back through time and met up with a guard, the Secret Service person that was around President Lincoln. And the guard asked him why he was there. He said, I'm here to see the president, sir. That was more than likely a member of the Gardner family, or offshoot, or some agent. See, they don't want me talking here. This old guy with an old-timey camera with a modern digital interface in the center of it. Roughly, I would have to say around this time in look, but it's more advanced than what we have. It's just disguised as something from around, I would have to say, late 1800s. So, the head kind of like the accordion neck on the front of it as the focus lens to where it went back and forth, where they put the cover around where the lens would retract and expand. And I heard a voice as I was thinking about it while I was eating breakfast. I heard somebody say, this person say, oh, give us a little credit, will you? Yeah, I'm giving you the credit you deserve because this is what your family did. And there's a plethora of evidence to support this. Don't just say it's your job either, because it's something that you did not need to do. The only time somebody in Time Corps or anything associated with Time Corps would ever have to go back, and of course other galactic stuff have been dumping on Time Corps because they do manipulations for the bad. I compare this to Quantum Leap, but just on the bad side. Where Sam Beckett, even in Quantum Leap, along with his friend Al, they had their antithesis, which was Lothos, which was the antithesis, but essentially of their AI Ziggy. Lothos was the antithesis, or the evil, like Luciferian AI that was in it. And they always portrayed him as like this red demon, like AI that would calculate where they could interfere. And Ziggy would always go right where once went wrong. That's the premise of the show. I see the Gardner family that's more like Lothos, calculating where they could interfere and not letting the timeline just play out. Now, I know, again, there's the White Knights and all of them that are basically like Ziggy and they have Sam Beckett and Al, too. And they're essentially both Time Core, Cabal related-ish. I mean, they have good sects within that try to, stop one or the other side. One could also argue this was to create more of a for and against, too, being the hero, savior, and the villain, devil, demon, bad guy. And then you have some anti-hero variations in between, sort of thing. But this guy, the only reason I don't give you credit is you interfered a lot in the timeline, even in biblical times. If it wasn't for all of you, more than likely some of the religions wouldn't be in place. That's not true, huh? I know Enlil had to do with the world religions on that side, but you helped him when you guys went back through time and started manicuring. The Cabal are the servants to these Dark Orions. So what say you to that? You personally just went back and took photographs. Back in time and took photographs. What do you think that did exactly? Just curious, what did you even bother to understand the depth of even that simple action? Or did you just do it to get a paycheck? And somebody else told you and you were compartmentalized away from the rest of it. You couldn't have been that ignorant. Time travel, you're taking pictures, data logging my ass. I could see it for a nefarious purpose, whereas they knew where to go back and interfere with someone else. You photographed it, and people like Thomas West went back and decided that they were going to then be the interferer with the Montauk. You were the catalyst, you logged it, which is fine. Logging historical data is fine, just don't interfere with it. That's a wonderful thing if you can log it and find history that has been forgotten. But you cannot interfere with history. I don't care if you yourself did it or not, members of your family did, and also members of Montauk definitely did. And you are Montauk. Montauk or Time Core, which direction of time did you come from? You went back through time, lived in that time frame, and there's even members of your family that have gravestones to prove it. They went back and died there. They went on a one-way trip in that cataloging venture. They weren't allowed to come back, at least on very rare occasions, at least. So, what say you? Okay, we knew that information already. You just said that. But the fact that you also went back and did this, you still were involved in the Montauk time travel projects, yes? Yes? When did you think that was a good thing? Why is there that level of programming in you where you think it's some part of some noble cause or heroic set of events? Simple man, my ass. You're not just a simple man. Don't say you are a simple man playing the role of an ordinary human when you are a supervillain. So, this, folks, is exactly sometimes what we're getting at with how they act. Even people on the phone that you talk to that are trying to mess with you, they do this exact same thing. They'll go, me? Did I personally do that? This guy. What's your name? Lawrence? Lawrence Gardner. That's your name. Lawrence. Or Larry. Lawrence. Okay. So, well, Lawrence, you're shockingly so full of shit it's coming out of your eye sockets. Sorry. You still participated, even if it is by proxy. You have to know yourself, and therefore know what is right and wrong. So, yeah, I know you're getting frustrated with me, but yeah. See, I'm paying attention. And now you causing the energy to stir more and more. It's crossing the line. I did not invoke your presence at all. And if you thought I did, it is revoked as of this moment in time. You may go now. See, you wouldn't be here if I wasn't saying something correct. So, Lawrence, your presence is revoked. Leave now. No, actuality, I'm just going to send you to the other side here. There we go. That, folks, is exactly the crap I'm talking about. And you get that, like I said, on call centers too, where people act that way. You're looking at the family or one of them that came up with that particular tactic in order to psychologically fuck with people. You get that on the phone a lot with call centers where they bounce you from person to person to person to person. That's on purpose. It's a psychological distractive technique to get somebody to give up. Get somebody to stop asking questions, get somebody to quit telling them what to do, or when you're really actually just in there looking for answers for whatever it is you're calling for. These people will go, oh, you mean I did this, or I personally did this? They'll pull that ego string a little bit to try. Oh, personally, no, I personally didn't do this. That's what that guy Lawrence was doing. Load of crap. When you see it in any public place, it's not necessarily just his family. It's just some training that was implemented that the people like this Lawrence were also implemented with. It's just considerably older. And try to deflect. A narcissist does this shit too. They will try to deflect and then project it onto you. You're dealing with families of narcissists. So this, my friends, is the epitome and the crux of the entire conversation. So, yeah, Lawrence won't be bugging us anymore. Isaac keeps saying like Lawrence Talbot, like the Wolfman, essentially linking some of it to satanic, which sometimes dogmen were used in satanic rituals, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's an apt joking analogy there. So, okay. It is 7:31 a.m. Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Thank you.